Hey, thanks for coming back. Welcome to my second episode of Virtual Run with Lexi. I'm Lexi, and I work at Run for Your Life in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this podcast was just inspired by, what's going on in the world and me wanting to keep all of our runners in the area connected, and anybody else who wants to give me a watch or a listen. Anyway, my second guest is, similar to the first in that she's a previous coworker and still a dear friend. Her name is Juliana Mills, and she has a lot of cool attributes. Well, one, she loves running. I do too. And then also she loves to cook. I do too. And third, she's a registered dietitian, which I think is really nifty. So we had a real fun time catching up. I hope you enjoy any of the tidbits that you take away, whether it's while you're running or while you're on your couch, or maybe while you're in the car just en route to the grocery store, because that's pretty much the only place we can go right now. I think I've driven my car to go to the grocery and to go running this week. So my priorities are in order. Anyway, I hope you enjoy and have a great day. Bye. All right. Hey, welcome to episode 2 of my new little podcast for Run for Your Life. I'm Lexi Clemenson, and I have a very special guest here today. She's a friend and a previous coworker at our university store. Her name is Juliana Mills, and I will let her introduce herself. Welcome, Juliana.
Thank you. Hey guys, like Lexi said, my name is Juliana. I'm a registered dietitian and an exercise physiologist, and I worked for Run for Your Life for about 2 years.
That's about right.
What year I started? 2016, maybe. So I went to Clemson, got a degree in food science, and then went to graduate school to get my degree in kinesiology. And then went and did internships to be a registered clinical exercise physiologist with the American College of Sports Medicine, and then went back and did my dietetic internship to become a registered dietitian. And Run for Your Life was part of my path along the way. Like while I was in school, that was one of my jobs that I had, and it was the best experience. I miss you guys every day.
Yeah, so you got, did I introduce you as Julia or Juliana?
Juliana.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
You went to UNC Charlotte, right, for the graduate work for kinesiology? Okay, yeah.
I did, yep. So I was at UNCC. I was going to school and then at Run for Your Life the other half of the time.
And what made you decide to move from the kinesiology deal to registered dietitian school, whatever?
So I had originally gone to school to be a registered dietitian and wasn't 100% sure. I also really loved exercise. After I finished my undergrad degree, wasn't 100% sure I wanted to do a dietetic internship. So I decided to apply for grad school and see what happened. So once I got in, it's we'll do this. Did all the internships for that. But along the way, I just still loved food and nutrition, and that I just realized that's really, really where my heart is above everything else. So I decided to try to apply for a dietetic internship and see what happened, and I got one. So I'm really, really happy that I did it now. I couldn't make up my mind between which way I wanted to go.
Yeah. Have you found the kinesiology education helpful in what you're doing now? I guess.
It has been, because a lot of food and exercise obviously are very intrinsically linked, and you have a lot of people that kind of ask questions about both. There's just so much overlap. So it is really helpful to have the background to be able to answer both questions.
Mm-hmm.
In my current job, I work in long-term care, and we also do short-term rehab. So if somebody gets surgery, or they're sick and they're in the hospital and they need physical therapy, occupational therapy, something like that, they'll come to our facility as well for that. I don't use it as much because I do a lot more on the long-term care side of things. And if they are doing physical activity, it's more in the physical therapy realm. But outside just of people asking me questions about stuff, I
sure
get to use the exercise part of it some.
So you're in a long-term care facility. What's a typical day in the life of you at work? What are you actually doing?
So clinical work, but it's charting, seeing patients, following up on like high risk patients. So people that are like having significant weight loss for some reason, if they're malnourished, pressure areas. We have some tube fed patients. We follow all of those people really closely, plus reviewing like everybody in the facility quarterly too, just to make sure that they're doing okay. Part of my job is also as being the assistant director of just our food service department in general. So we have a kitchen on site. We have a full kitchen staff, a kitchen manager. So our dietary manager is awesome. She does a lot of like the food ordering and making sure the meals are getting cooked and all that kind of thing. But we do a lot with reviewing menus and making sure that they're like meeting the nutritional needs and nutritional guidelines that we have to follow. So I would say most of my day is spent like coming in, like doing meal rounds, especially like during breakfast and lunch, walking around, like seeing how people are eating, looking at whatever patients I might need to see that day, talking to them. We also end up just like inadvertently getting a lot of food orders because they see us and they're like, hey, I want this for lunch. And so we have to take that back to the kitchen while we're doing our other stuff. We'll have meetings with the nurses. We do a lot of like interdisciplinary work with the speech therapist and the nursing staff and our social workers, which is great. I really love that about my job, is that everybody really works closely together to make sure that the patients are being taken care of from all aspects.
That's like a dream. That's what I read about over and over again in nursing school, and it was
not true in a lot of places.
In reality, it can't be implemented in certain situations, I feel like, as easily. So
yeah, I've definitely been in situations where it was not like that. So I was really happy to find somewhere where it seemed like very open door policy between all the different disciplines. So you can really talk and like ask questions and get help with things if you need it.
Neat. So do you love your job?
Yeah, most days I love my job. Some days I don't love my job, but for the most part, it is a really, really good job, and I do enjoy it. And I love my coworkers, which makes a huge difference.
Oh, that was a big thing for me, or is, right? I think it's for most people. I don't know if I'm like, where should I look? My husband said, you need to look at the camera more. So anyway, okay. So you've covered a lot about your education background, what you're doing now. I guess just in light of what's going on and like the reason we're doing this, that I started this podcast, was just to kind of keep Run for Your Life present on people's devices and whatever while they can't come into our store and give us a hug. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, how has it affected your job? I mean, there's probably some obvious things, but are there any, I don't know.
It's just been, at first it was pretty stressful, just kind of because everybody's sort of figuring out, what are we doing about this as we go? I mean, it's not just my job, it's everywhere, like, all healthcare facilities pretty much, but especially because we work with a pretty high risk population, like our biggest concern is like making sure that we're keeping it out of the facility.
Right.
So we had like 30 room changes last week to make like a quarantine wing of the facility, basically. So any new patients that come in, or if anybody goes to the hospital and comes back, they all have to go to that wing and be quarantined for 2 weeks. So like I can't see them when they come in anymore. Like used to, if somebody new came in, first thing I would do would go talk to them, like find out about their history. But now we can't do that anymore. And then we also have to be screened every day. We have no visitors at all. In the facility, like that's not an employee. So, I mean, I get my temperature taken when I come in and when I leave, and I have to fill out a whole questionnaire about like who I've been in contact with. Do I have these symptoms, stuff like that.
Yeah. So
it's definitely, it feels very quiet because it's a lot more like locked down than usual.
Yeah.
Like normally we have tons of visitors, the patients really like to go around the building and go outside and do all these different things. So it's definitely, it's not fun for us, but it's definitely not fun for the patients, because it definitely has put a damper on like them being able to see their families and stuff like that, which kind of stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. I went grocery shopping today, and I've never been like anxious to go grocery shopping. I love buying groceries and like planning meals and stuff.
Yeah.
And I like fashioned a mask and, kind of felt like I was going into battle, basically.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
The grocery store was quiet, and like the music was not really loud. There were customers, but not very many. And
Mm-hmm.
anyway, it was, it feels different. So I was like, couldn't wait to just get home. It's like, this has become my cocoon of safety, you know?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I mean, I almost feel even though like work is fine, I feel a lot more comforted to be home. Like it just feels safer, you know?
Right.
So.
All right. So, this is a cheesy question, but like, what do you miss about Run for Your Life? Like, is there any aspect, not even just about the people and, you know, us all getting along, but like anything about the work that you miss, or maybe that you've taken away with you to other jobs?
I mean, just the knowledge about, you know, like shoes and running gear and, you know, nutrition as far as like the gels go and things like that. I mean, that was all pretty new to me. I mean, I remember when I first started and like just looking at the wall of shoes and everybody being like, yeah, so these are all different and these are all of the different aspects. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to remember all this in 1,000 years. Like I had no idea that existed. So, I still give people running shoe advice all the time. I'm like, yeah, you want me to watch you run? Like, I'll look at your game. Like, I miss that. I mean, obviously I miss the people. Like I miss working. Like I feel like my closest friends, even when I lived in Charlotte, like that I miss like the most were my friends that I made working at Run for Your Life, truly.
Yeah.
And like this might sound weird, but like organizing shoe boxes is like the most cathartic thing. Like having to go and like organize them and like put all the shoes up and like, you know, there were days where like I was like, oh my gosh, feel like I've been doing this for 6 hours. But a lot of days I just kind of enjoyed it. So it was like kind of quiet and you just got back there and you organized it and I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to do a little bit of everything, I guess, at Run for Your Life.
Yeah, you do. And I love getting to like solve problems. You know, people are coming in like this hurts or I'm having this issue, like working with them to figure out like what was wrong. I love the problem solving part of that.
Yeah, it's it sort of helps you, I don't know, come out of your shell with that. We have some new staffers where I can tell they're getting more comfortable just talking to people just because you never know who's going to walk in the door. So. And we will open sometime. I don't know when, but soon.
Please do. Sooner than later.
Yes. Okay, so let's see. I wanted to kind of connect you to running and why I think you're a relevant guest on this program. So you obviously liked running because you decided you wanted to work at a running store. So tell me about like how you got into running and who your kind of inspiring people were in your running life and whatever.
So my dad definitely was my biggest inspiration, and he was and still is a way better runner than I will ever be. I'll have to say he is 64 and he can still outrun me. So I'm 30 and if we run a race together, he waits for me at the finish line every single race. There's never been not even one that I've beat him at. But he ran a lot of marathons, and just like ran my whole life. And then when I got older, and I guess when I started doing sports in high school, and you know, just you know, when you're a teenager and you think more like, I think I want to try to be more fit when you're like reading all these magazines and stuff. So I remember like just going and I would run what I felt like was forever, but probably like half a mile or a mile or something around my neighborhood. Yeah, and then I just over time, I just increased the distance and just started running more and more. And I mean, by the time I was probably 17, 18, I mean, running was just like a normal part of my routine. I ran all the time.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So when you did start running, were you running alone mostly or with your dad usually when you kind of got in a groove with it?
I ran alone for years. I mean, occasionally I would run with my dad, but I went through a long time where I couldn't run without music. So I just wanted to put my music on and run, you know, for an hour or whatever it was with just my music. And I didn't really run regularly with anybody else until I started running with friends in Charlotte. When I started looking at Run for Your Life, none of my friends were interested in running like that, really. Like they just thought I was nuts for going out and doing that. I will also say I'm a very early morning runner, and most people are not like super excited about getting up at 5 a.m. to go on a long run. So there's
Yeah, because you ran regularly through college, right? I mean, not on a team or anything, but for your own personal fitness.
Yeah. So it would be like literally me alone running around the Clemson campus, like super early in the morning. There'd be nobody else out.
I feel like that is, I mean, I've intercepted customers who are, I don't know, are like you, but not as many. Most of the ones who run early are ones who've been conditioned to from running cross country or track or whatever. So I would say that's a gift that you have that kind of I don't know, circadian rhythm, I guess.
Yeah, hardcore morning person.
Yeah. I think from a this is a nerdy segue, but from a metabolism standpoint, isn't it probably better to get exercise done in the morning anyway? Or
yeah, I mean, they say that it is like it helps rev up your metabolism and starts like that, like starts everything moving, like that fat burning process, basically. Especially if you're working out on an empty stomach in particular. Right. So,
do you advise working out on an empty stomach?
I think it's really, really personal. Like for me, I feel like I'm going to throw up if I've eaten anything. Like maybe if I'm doing a race and I'm like hungry, I could eat a banana or something, but like I really cannot eat. Like even if I'm running a half marathon, I won't eat anything beforehand in the morning. Wow. I'll run a full half marathon without eating, and I feel fine. Most people would probably disagree with me on that and think that that's insane. So I'm not advising that by any means. Right. Not like, don't do that if that makes you feel bad. But I think it's personal because I've heard other people say, they're like, well, if I don't eat, an energy bar or something, like I feel like I'm going to pass out because I just don't feel like I have the energy store to be able to do that. So I think it's pretty individual.
Yeah, it probably depends on your nutritional habits, like throughout the day, every day too, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like, honestly, as far as like the fat burning thing goes, like because you run on an empty stomach or don't run on an empty stomach, it's not going to like make a humongous difference. And like, you're not going to like lose 10 pounds by doing that. So
right.
It makes you feel bad.
Right. Okay. So you've run at least 1 or 2 half marathons, right?
I've done like three total, I think. Yeah.
You've done
one was like an unofficial one that I did with you guys at one of like the course previews. I did one last year. I live in Greenville, South Carolina. So there's in Travelers Rest, which is a city about 13 miles from downtown Greenville. There's actually, it's like the fastest half marathon. It's a net downhill.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so I did that at the end of last February, and it poured down rain the entire time.
Gosh.
But I did PR that one with the net downhill regardless. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I want to do another one here eventually.
You've done, haven't you done like a bunch of mud runs? Like running you love it, but you have other types of exercise that you like too, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple mud runs. I've done like all the trifecta for the Spartan, so like the Beast, all the different distances for that. There's the Beast Sprint, the Super. I did that in end of 2018. I work out at home a lot too, so just like YouTube videos, like HIIT exercises. I love yoga, hiking, walking. I can't sit still. I just love to move. Yeah. So it's not a chore for me, which is, I understand that's a blessing. Most people are probably rolling their eyes at me for saying that.
I just know. Nobody's rolling their eyes. Let's see. Oh, so we'll get on to more of the good stuff about food. So when did you get into cooking? Like, when did kind of food become, something that you, liked or whatever?
Right. I have always loved to eat. Like even as a kid, I have loved to eat. Like I was ready for every meal that anybody has like ever put in front of me. So that started it. And I got more into cooking as a teenager. I actually, I had an eating disorder in high school. So I became like very obsessed with what was in food at the time. So I started cooking because I had full control of everything that was going into the food. And then as I recovered from that and started like adding things back in, I started to cook things that actually tasted good and weren't just like horrible, like low calorie concoctions. So it kind of evolved from that.
Gotcha. And your mom loves to cook too, right? Did she, was she kind of an influence for you in terms of she likes a lot of different cuisine, right? Your parents love to travel, and is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my mom is like my mom and my grandmother are probably my biggest cooking inspirations.
Sweet.
For sure.
Do you follow recipes to a T usually, or do you?
Never. Like, I cannot follow a recipe to save my life. Like, even if I'll read one and I'll think like, okay, that sounds pretty good. Like, and if it's like an exact measurement, like baking, you know, it's exact measurements, like I'll stick to that a little bit more, but I'm usually like adding something or substituting something, you know, or omitting something. Like it is usually changed in some way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm just like, that's my like creativity is cooking for sure.
Yeah, you when you've cooked with me, it reminds me of my brother-in-law, because he can create like beautiful dishes that taste amazing, and then I'll ask him, oh, can you like write down the recipe? And no, he can't.
You're like,
you have it once and you're never gonna have that again.
Because you follow recipes to a T.
Pretty much. Sometimes I'll take artistic liberties, but depending on the recipe, sometimes I'll want to see, I feel like I want to, I don't know, it sounds cheesy, but like honor the person who wrote the recipe, right? So like I have all these cookbooks here.
Yay!
Tegan Gerard or whatever.
Yeah, I have that one too.
Super simple. So I feel like, I don't know, she took time to make these recipes. I want to see how it's going to turn out as she wrote it. And then sometimes I have to tweak for Will, because he has some foods that he can't eat because of migraines or whatever. But all right. So who should we follow on Instagram for food? Like, do you have one that you would, like, if you had to unfollow everybody, who would be the last standing foodie?
That's really difficult. Right now, I have been following a ton of Ambitious Kitchen.
Oh, yes. I think I cooked something from there because I found them through you. I forget what it was, though.
Yeah, she has cool, like, kind of, her and then like Half Baked Harvest, so Tegan Gerard, who you just mentioned, that cookbook. I love both of them because it's not like, because I love to cook, like I can do the simple stuff, like easy recipes, you know, like I don't need a recipe for it exactly, but like they're super creative and have like flavor combinations, like stuff that I wouldn't necessarily think of. So for me, it's really inspirational to see like what they've come up with.
Yeah. Well, and the Tegan, she makes like baking bread is like part of her routine, you know. She doesn't really cut corners at all in any of her recipes. So when she says it takes 30 minutes, I usually add an hour.
Yeah. I feel like that for every recipe. Like I've made something, yesterday, it was like 10-minute prep time. And I was like, if anyone can chop all of this in 10 minutes, like it must be Wolfgang Puck or something. Because I cannot do that. And I like, yeah, that's a very impressive skill if you can assemble that in 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see. So, you know, with runners especially, there's a lot of trends with not necessarily like diets because they're wanting to lose weight, but they want to, I don't know, process their fuel efficiently so they can run longer, right? So like the ketogenic diet is a big kind of, I don't know, thing. And then some people try to cut out all their carbs. What do you have any, I don't know, tidbits or words of advice around all that kind of buzz?
Yeah, so I would say for any like food trends, diets, like specialty food items, like new stuff that comes out, like just don't get caught up in all that. Like it's like not worth your time. It's not worth your money. You know, it tends to be like pretty exhausting to try to follow that. Like I'm just a big proponent of like a plant-based whole food diet. Like it's not complicated. If it comes out of a package, probably shouldn't eat it. I'm not saying like you can never have another cracker, but you know, for the most part, like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, you know, healthy proteins. So leaner meats, fish, things like that, eggs. It is really that easy.
Right. So
typically like all the other stuff, it's either not good for your long-term health or it's not sustainable. and you know, pretty much nobody sticks to those things long term. So why waste your time, you know?
Right. And even like when I went to nursing school, one of my favorite classes, it was actually a pre-nursing class with just anatomy and physiology, and you learned all about, you know, your gut and how you process everything and the basics of nutrition. And we were designed as humans to process carbohydrates. So why would you just remove that from your, I don't know. And this is not a debate or anything. But anyway, just some questions for our listeners to think about.
Well, another thing with the carbohydrates real quick too, is like, if you're cutting all that out, like you said, that is your body's preferred source of energy. Like, you're meant to burn carbohydrates. Like, that's how you are set up. But then also carbohydrates are also like a huge source of nutrition. So like vitamins, minerals, huge fiber source, which is a super important thing that people don't think about getting enough of. So if you're cutting out carbs, like, you're losing a lot of that in your diet.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people probably don't think of fruits and vegetables as sources of carbs, but they are, and they're sources of protein, right? So if you, okay, so this is maybe a fun question for listeners. What are, say, 6 fresh food items you might suggest any runner has on hand, you know, all the time if possible?
Okay, so it's fresh, like produce items, or like anything that will spoil?
I don't, stuff that'll spoil.
Okay.
Perimeter of the grocery store.
Okay. So bananas for sure. I feel like everybody talks about bananas as being like number one, you know, like running food, but they're an awesome source of carbohydrates. They're really easy for you to digest. Really good source of potassium for sweating a lot. To me, like sweet potatoes is another really good one.
Oh yeah, and they're cheap too.
They're cheap. Yep, big fan of that. Greens, just in general, like spinach, kale, chard, whatever you like. Greens, salmon, so healthy fat, good source of protein. Eggs, another really good source of protein, and they're easy and cheap.
And the whole egg is okay, right? The whole debacle of egg white versus yolk.
Yes, please, please, please don't throw away the yolk. Okay. It's got lots of good vitamins, minerals in it. Don't throw it away. And then the other one, maybe avocados, like for another good, like healthy fat source. I think it's important. People don't like think about, you know, those healthy fats as much, but
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And then 6 pantry items, since a lot of us, like I spent more money at the grocery store today than I ever do because I'm trying to make it last for like 2 weeks or more. So what pantry items would you recommend having on hand?
So pantry items, whole grains, just anything that you like. So like rice and oats are probably like the big ones, like most people have that are easy to cook. Whole wheat pasta, or regular pasta. I know some people don't like whole wheat, but pasta is a really good one. It's like really quick and easy. I think peanut butter is a big one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can buy like a ton of that and it lasts forever. Good protein, good fat. Dried or canned beans. If you don't want to cook dried beans, canned beans I think is a really good one. Are we counting freezer food as pantry items?
Sure.
Like pantry items.
Yeah.
Any like frozen fruits or vegetables. Like I went to the store and stocked up on a bunch of frozen fruits and vegetables just because I didn't know, you know, what the store was going to look like, you know, after a couple weeks. It seems like people are just buying toilet paper and like chicken here, and like there's plenty of produce to be found, so I haven't had to worry about it.
There was no shortage of radicchio today at the grocery store. So
okay, let's see. Frozen fruits, vegetables. Yeah, that was 6. Okay.
Okay, sweet. So I guess you kind of touched on it. One of my questions was like, what kind of relationship with food is important for long-term health? So like you said, plant-based, whole food, right? Almost like Mediterranean focused, it sounds like. Lean meats, steering away from red meats, you'd say?
Yeah. Well, I say red meat in like limited quantity, like once a week or so, but really not more than that.
Got it. And if you had only one more meal you could eat, what would it be?
Oh, I want to know what you would say for that.
What would you know?
I honestly think that I would probably die before I got to eat the meal because I would never be able to choose. They'd just be like, time's up, sorry, like you're done.
No, because I feel like the more I cook and I cook different flavors, like I start to crave different flavors. So like, I don't know. I mean, I love pizza, but that's, I don't
See,
know.
I thought about pizza. I also thought about tacos.
Yeah, probably for me, it would probably be some kind of, yeah, tacos or something.
Yeah, I honestly, because like if I don't have Mexican food like at least twice a week or like something with that type of flavor profile, I'm like, God, I really need it. Like I've got to make something.
Right.
Like, I always have canned beans and like salsa and corn tortillas at my house, like at all times. If I run out, it's a huge emergency to me.
Yeah. Okay, and so yes, you have a few questions for me, I guess, right? Or no?
Oh, I asked you about did I ask you about this? Well, I asked you some other questions.
Yeah.
What have you been cooking lately? I know I've seen some stuff on Instagram. What has been like your favorite meals?
Well, I guess I didn't post it here. I can talk about it again. I feel like everybody at work and all my runners I coach are probably tired of hearing me talk about this salad, but it's from Run Fast, Eat Slow, I think. So this cookbook, I'm not going to show you the recipe because I want you to buy the cookbook. And it's a kale radicchio farro salad.
Ooh.
So it's just kale radicchio. It calls for nuts. I put in pecans. Farro, which is like whole grain, right? But it's gluten full. What else is in it? I top it with some cheese, and the dressing is what makes it. It's lemon juice and olive oil, garlic, miso paste, salt, pepper.
Ooh, miso paste. I like that.
So good. I'm not kidding. Listeners, Juliana, viewers, I've made this salad almost once a week since January. Like I just can't stop eating it. And I might top it with avocado. If I have an avocado that's like available, it's definitely good with that. Mm-hmm. And it keeps really well. And anyway, so that's a big lunch item. And then I don't know, our menu for this week is like totally the opposite of everything we've talked about. We talked about me making Swedish meatballs, like throwing one of my mom's old recipes in the mix with egg noodles. So like full on fat and animal protein, which is not my usual. And then
balance is important.
And I do plan to roast some sweet potatoes. Will wants to make a Mexican casserole, which is also, I mean, it has Velveeta, but you know, this is not how we usually eat all the time. So this may have to get spread out over a couple weeks. And then, there's a recipe it's one of these books, The Kitchen, which you gave me this, and I still have the card. Yay! It's a Chipotle Caesar salad recipe.
I have not actually tried that one out of that book.
So I think I might try it. It's like a more modern take on a Caesar salad without the anchovies. So that's why it sounds good. So those are some things.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Mm-hmm. So are you reading any books while you're quarantined?
I'm not reading books. No, I mean, I have a book that I need to finish. It's about sleep, and it's written by like a really erudite guy who has lots of letters after his name about the benefits of sleep. Anyway, so I'll share the title maybe at the end of this podcast, but,
okay.
But it's really good. It's a good book, and he kind of dumbs down how smart he is so that a regular person can understand it, which is cool. What else? I keep getting off Instagram and off Instagram because I'm spending too much time.
I was going to ask you, like, who is like inspiring you on Instagram, and who do you follow? Because I feel like sometimes you're on, and then you're like, I'm spending too much time on here, and now I'm off, and you're pulled back in again.
Yeah. It's the same one I mentioned last week with carrots, that Amy Wilichowski. But then there's that, I think you follow her, One Crazed Foodie. I don't know if you follow her. It sounds like she was a big runner in college. One Crazed Foodie. Yeah, she doesn't have like a cookbook or anything, but she really likes to cook. And anyway, so I don't know if she's had any like struggles with food or anything. Like a lot of runners have had struggles with body weight and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of become energized to make food a priority in their lives. But anyway, she just loves to cook. I think she lives in like Colorado, so she's real cool.
Yeah.
The Amy Wilichowski, she like is really good at, she kind of makes her posts very almost like artistic. You can tell she uses a lot of thought to even her stories, you know, just, I don't know, it's cool. Part of it's probably because she's 20 years younger than me and much more comfortable with the technology, but
she's probably a lot more comfortable with the technology than I am too.
Right.
I had to like text you and be like, so how does Zoom work? I don't know what this is.
It's fun. You should do it. People are doing like family meetings and kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's like Brady Bunch.
Yeah, we've been FaceTiming, but this is like much better to do it on a full screen rather than having like this little tiny phone that you have two people.
Yeah, and you don't have to hold the phone. And you can have like, you know, 6 other people on here if you wanted to. I went to a girls' night on Zoom. It was weird.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, I think I don't want to take up any more of your time, but it's so good to see you.
It was so good to see you too. This was fun.
Yeah. So I hope you'll be back again. Someday we'll have you back.
Sounds good.
This is going to last forever. I don't know. We'll see. I'm taking it 1 week at a time.
Well, we have a toast with our sparkling water.
Oh, yes.
Back in our run for your life days.
That's right. Okay.
I've already been drinking mine. I was drinking water, not a beer, in case anybody was wondering.
Oh, yes. Yeah. All right. So cheers.
Cheers.
Yay. And LaCroix. Okay. I haven't had this flavor. This is lime and watermelon. It's actually really good. And you have classic lemon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got the Costco variety pack. So all you get is what is it? Lime, lemon, and grapefruit are the only ones that you get in that one.
Sweet. All the originals.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for talking. We'll see you later.
It was so good to see you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, thanks so much again for watching my episode 2 of this podcast. I thought I would just cover a few things that we talked about in the video and slow it down so you can write down some notes or whatever. I don't know how all this works. And if it were me, I would write down notes because I'm old. But anyway, so we talked about fresh ingredients to have on hand and pantry items. So the fresh items were number 1, bananas. They're cheap and readily available. Sweet potatoes, also very cheap. Lots of good recipes for those. Greens, probably dark leafy greens. Salmon, a really good lean, well, it's actually not that lean, but it's a real good protein. Eggs and the yolks and avocados. So those were her fresh ingredient recommendations. And then pantry items, whole grains like farro, quinoa, brown rice, brown grains versus white. Peanut butter, dried beans, canned beans, frozen fruits, and frozen vegetables. And I just did my first batch of dried black beans with lots of seasonings, and that's a recipe from Run Fast, Eat Slow, and they were awesome. And you can purpose them all week long into all different kinds of recipes. So definitely highly recommend, if you have the time, which we all do now, to take a stab at buying dried beans. They're so cheap, and then you can add the seasonings and make them to your liking. And of course, last but not least, we should all have sparkling water on hand. She had LaCroix this time. I have AHA. So we'll see who wins. But AHA's been on sale, so that's why I've been getting that. And then the cookbooks that we talked about briefly, Tegan Gerard, I think is how you spell her last name, or say her last name. Super Simple is this cookbook. And she's on Instagram with a really good account, and it's just at Half Baked Harvest. And then Run Fast, Eat Slow, of course, also on Instagram. This is Shalane Flanagan with Elise Kopecki. They were teammates at UNC Chapel Hill. And this is where my kale and radicchio salad that I'm addicted to lives. So definitely get this cookbook. And then the kitchen. This is all actually plant-based vegan recipes. So there's ingredients like nutritional yeast and all kinds of fun stuff in here. So definitely recommend this cookbook as well. So I hope you enjoyed my time with Juliana. I want to thank her again for joining me, and then I'll thank the same old things, all my pets, YouTube for the free music, and you for watching. Okay, have a great day. Bye.